Republicans generally like to say that they're in favor of free enterprise, and Democrats generally like to say that they're a friend of the consumer. Neither of these positions are usually true. I am in favor of free enterprise, and I am in favor of the consumer, give the consumer the best rate. Many instances, the state of Texas has helped hurt consumer rights by legislating and regulating the products that people want to buy.
Do you have a follow-up?
Senator Meier, it wasn't Rebecca Lightsey alone who spoke at that news conference. Members of the board, past and present, did as well. One of them being Senator Lloyd Doggett, a colleague of yours, who was there in 1979 when you introduced the Deceptive Trade Practices Amendments. Those amendments, in almost each instance except for treble damages, did not make it to the Senate. You wanted to see to it that there were no class action suits allowed by individuals that knowingly be put in the laundry list of deceptive trade practices, and limit the act from 5 years to 2, which did pass, and other things. Do you not feel that that in itself shows that your actions toward the Deceptive Trade Practices Act were not exactly as passive as may have seemed?
No, Barbara, I won't attempt to convince you or the people of Texas that Lloyd Doggett and I can agree on many things in the state Senate, because we haven't over those years. My efforts at working on amendments to the Deceptive Trade Practice Act were to have the treble damage aspect of it cleared up so that it was put back in the hands of the juries. I trust the juries in Texas, and that's what that change to the bill did. I'd like to know if Mr. Mattox, for instance, would like for us to go back to automatic treble damages hidden from the jury.
Mr. Mattox.
Well, let me say that I think it's very appropriate that what you pointed out. As a matter of fact, my opponent started off by talking about his endorsement by his hometown newspaper, Fort Worth Star-Telegram. But I would point out in a May the 9th, 1981 editorial, that newspaper said, Senator Bill Meier, who is to consumers what the wolf is to sheep. That's not a very complimentary phrase of someone that they now would support to be the people's lawyer of the state. I think I will be a good consumer protector for this state.
Youngblood.
The best thing the state government can do for consumers is to get out of the regulation of utilities, of trucking, the Railroad Commission, the way it restricts the output of gas and oil in this state. The consumer's best friend is competition and the ability to take his business elsewhere if he doesn't think he's getting satisfactory service.
Mr. Johnson of the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, your question to Mr. Mattox.
Mr. Mattox, this is kind of a can one serve two masters question. You've represented yourself as aspiring to be what you call the people's lawyer, that is, the protector of the little guy against the government and big interests, etc. But as Attorney General, you will also have the responsibility of being the state's lawyer. Assuming that you persist in your orientation, might not you find yourself in something of a moral and legal conflict?
Well, I don't think so. I think John Hill gained a reputation as being a really outspoken consumer advocate, protecting the people both from environmental problems and consumer protection, and helping to pass a great number of pieces of legislation that were very beneficial to consumers. I will engage in that same kind of activity. I understand my responsibilities as Attorney General, and that would be to, in effect, enforce the law of the state of Texas. And I will do that regardless of what they are. But I also will attempt to get the legislature to make those changes where necessary, and also will advocate those when necessary. It seems to me that we need to work very hard to make sure that the legislature does not gradually gnaw away at some of the most appropriate consumer protection laws. We shouldn't have that happen. And I will work to be a strong Attorney General that will work to try to solve those problems for the public.
The proper function of government at any level is to assist individuals in the defense of their individual rights and not to be the violator of those rights. Now, in the event that the government is violating individuals' rights, it is the state attorney general's responsibility not to defend government from the citizens, but to defend citizens from the government.
Your rebuttal, Mr. Meier.
Susan, the Attorney General's office has approximately 17,000 lawsuits pending. Those are civil lawsuits. I've spent 16 years as a practicing civil attorney in Texas. I know how to practice law, and I'll do that as an effective advocate for Texas in representing the state of Texas viewpoint in those lawsuits. My opponent, Mr. Mattox, has not tried a single civil district court case in Dallas County, Texas. Kathie aspires to be Attorney General, and I suggest the qualifications are as much in contrast as the political philosophies.
Do you have a follow-up?
Mr. Maddox, you have a long history of friendly associations with organized labor, and it has been suggested that you may have some attachments that may be inconvenient for you if you're Attorney General. Is that the case?
Well, I've always been a friend of the working people out in the community, whether they're members of organized labor or not. In this campaign, I've gotten about less than 4% of my campaign funds from organized labor. And I would refute my opponent's statement that I've never tried a civil case in Dallas County. He's mistaken. He does not know what the facts are, and it shows his poor research that he's engaged in. I would suggest that he look a little deeper, and he would find that that's not the case.
Anyone who has examined my financial statements would easily see that I'm not a pawn of organized labor or any other special interest group.
The facts are that I advocate and support the Texas right-to-work law, that I do not advocate agency shop. The facts are that Mr. Mattox voted for agency shop when he was in the legislature and has received more than $200,000 in contributions from organized labor over the last 6 years. Those are compromising facts that the people of Texas are entitled to consider whenever they're voting for Attorney General.
Ms. Garrison, your question to Ms. Youngblood.
Ms. Youngblood, you keep stressing the fact that the state should take second place to the rights of the individual, and yet the Attorney General of the state of Texas, which is the office you're running for, is specifically charged by both the Constitution and the U.S. and the state Supreme Court with protecting the rights of the state, protecting the state against both individuals and corporations. Now, how would you serve if you were to win the post?
Well, who is the state? Is the state the government? The Constitution says the state is the people of Texas. And people come in neatly packaged individual form, and individuals are the only people who are the only ones who have rights. Governments don't have rights, and groups don't have rights. Only individuals have rights. There are many instances in which the Constitution and of the state of Texas and the laws conflict, and so they say you have to support these to the best of your ability. There will be choices to be made, I don't deny that, but all of my choices will be towards enhancing individual liberty.